Well, once upon a time, there was an old man, an old woman, a little girl, and a little boy, and they had a frisky little pet squirrel that always sat up on top of their fireplace now. Now, one day, the old woman said, you know, I feel like making some biscuits. Now, one of the things you need to make biscuits with is baking soda. But back in the time of this story, baking soda was called Sody Sallyratus. And the old woman said, now I'm out of Sody Sallyratus. Little boy, I need you to go to the store and get some Sody Sallyratus. And don't you forget what you're going for, because don't you know that little boy, he was known for forgetting what he was doing when he was right in the middle of it. So he started off, sauntering off to that store, and as he trotted along there, he sang a song so he'd remember what he was going for. He sang, Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. He got to the store, and because he'd been singing that song the whole way, he remembered what he'd gone for. He got that can of Sody Sallyratus. He was so proud of himself. He put it in his pocket, and he started trotting on back home, still singing that song, and I think you can sing it along with me now, can't you? Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. Little boy got to a bridge and started to cross it when all of a sudden, a great big old bear stuck his head out, and he didn't like being waked up by that song. He said, I'm going to eat you up, you and your Sody Sallyratus. Oh, he reached out, grabbed that little boy, and swallowed him down whole. Oh, dear. Uh-oh. Well, meanwhile, back home, the old woman, the old man, and little girl and that little pet squirrel, they waited and they waited and they waited, and that little boy didn't come, and he didn't come, and he didn't come, and the old woman said, I knew he was going to forget. Little girl, you're going to have to go and get that Sody Sallyratus. So the little girl said, yes, sir. And she started skipping to the store, singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. She got to the store, and the storekeeper told her, well, no, that little boy's done been here and gone and took that Sody Sallyratus with him. So she said, thank you. And she started skipping on back home, singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. Little girl got to that bridge when all of a sudden, that great big old bear stuck his head out and said, hey, nipple little boy, him is Sody Sallyratus, and I'm going to eat you up too. And he reached out, grabbed that little girl, and swallowed her down whole.
Oh my.
Ooh. Well, meanwhile, back home, an old woman, old man, and a little squirrel, they waited and they waited and they waited, and the little girl didn't come, and she didn't come, and she didn't come. Well, she must have caught that forgetting thing from her brother. Old man, you're going to have to go. So the old man said, yes, sir. And he started moseying down the doorway. Well, he sang that song too. He sang, Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. But he got to the store, and the storekeeper told him, that little boy and that little girl, well, you know, they've already been done here and gone. Old man said, thank you. And he started moseying on back home, still singing that song.
Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus.
Old man got to that bridge, and the great big old bear stuck his head out and said, ate me up a little boy, ate me up a little girl, and I'm going to eat you up too. And he reached out, grabbed that old man, and swallowed him down whole.
Oh.
Meanwhile, back home, well, that old woman and that little pet squirrel, they waited and they waited and they waited, and old man didn't come, and he didn't come, and he didn't come. The old woman said, well, I guess I'm going to have to just go myself. So she started mumbling and grumbling her way down the road to the store, singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Guess I'll have to go myself for Sody Sallyratus. But when she got to the storekeeper said, oh, that little boy and that little girl, oh man, they've already been here, done and gone. Old woman, she thanked him and she started mumbling and grumbling her way back home, singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama, I with myself to get Old woman got to that bridge, and that great big old bear stuck his hat out and said, ate me up a little boy, ate me up a little girl, ate me up an old man, and I'm gonna eat you up too. And he reached out, grabbed that old woman and swallowed her down. Oh. Well, meanwhile, back home, that little squirrel, he waited, and he waited, and he waited. Nobody came. So he figured he was going to have to go and get that can of Sody Sallyratus. Well, he flipped his tail out and he jumped from that fireplace mantel down to the table, down to a chair, down to the floor, and whisked that tail out again, and he started skittering down the road, singing that song. And I wonder how a squirrel sings. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus. Yes, I'll have to go myself for Sody Sallyratus. But when that little squirrel got to the store, the storekeeper looked down there and said, oh, I know that little boy, little girl, and the old man and the old woman, they've already been here and gone. So the squirrel said, thank you. And he started skittering his way back home, singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus. Yes, I have to go myself for Sody Sallyratus. Little squirrel got to that bridge, and that great big old bear stuck his head out and said, ate me up a little boy.
Sorry.
Ate me up a little girl. Ate up an old man. And I ate me up an old woman. And I'm gonna eat you up too. And that great big old bear reached out to grab that little squirrel, but that little squirrel was too fast. He was halfway up a tree and still climbing. Great big old bear looked at that and said, huh, he can do that with his little bitty squirrel legs. I can do that with my great big old bear legs. And he started climbing up that tree. That little squirrel, he scurried right out on the end of a branch. Bear looked at that and said, huh, if he can do that with his little bitty squirrel legs, I can certainly do that with my great big old bear legs. And he started scooting out on that limb. That little squirrel, he looked to the left, he looked to the right, he looked across the way, and there was a branch from another tree. So that little squirrel gave a wiggle and a waggle and a wiggle and a shake, and he went flying through the air and landed safe in that tree. Big old bear looked at that and said, huh, if he can do that with his little bitty squirrel legs, I can do that with my great big old bear legs. So he gave a wiggle and a waggle and a wiggle and a shake, and he went flying through the air, but he didn't make it, and he landed with a big old poof on that big old bear belly. Well, out stepped the old woman, the old man, the little girl, and the little boy. Old woman kind of wiped herself off and looked at that little boy and said, now, where's my can of Sody Sallyratus? And he pulled it out of his pocket, still all proud, and they all started heading back home, everybody singing that song. Sody, Sody, Sody Sallyratus, Mama sent me to the store for Sody Sallyratus. When they got back home, that little squirrel had already skittered on ahead of everybody, and he was up there on that fireplace mantel waiting. Old woman got down her big blue bowl that she mixed up biscuits with, and she made a big old batch of biscuits. Now, when they were done and she pulled them out of the oven, she picked up the biggest biscuit, held it out to that little squirrel, and that little squirrel reached out, grabbed that biscuit, and swallowed it down.
Oh!
Sody Sallyratus. Here you come.